My name is Simon, and I'm a thinkaholic. Or at least I thought I was. Are you a thinkaholic? Shall we find out? For the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to make sure we have as much fun as we possibly can. So I've lined up some fun subjects for us. Depression, suicidal thoughts, and God. Are you having fun? I'm having fun. As I stand here today, I'm happier now than I can remember being, but it wasn't always the case. When I think about the stuff that's happened, I'm a successful business owner. I'm a dad of 3 amazing boys. I didn't want to stand here and talk about depression because I don't want to be known for that. Sounds depressing as well. But the truth is, I am that guy. And that's why I'm here. That is my truth. Why? Because I've got a bunch of selfies on my phone, like I'm going to share some of them with you. But for the best part of the last 20 years, I've been walking around with a head full of bees. Thoughts buzzing around my mind. Stinging. For the last 7 years, I've been on a journey to rediscover my mental health. I've been on courses, I've read books, I've hired coaches and therapists. But 12 months ago, something happened which just changed everything. I saw the truth of who I really was. And it's not who I thought I was. And let me tell you, it changed everything. And it's the opposite to some conventional wisdom about well-being. We're actually born with all of the well-being we need. And the thing I didn't realize, the thing that I saw, was the well-being stays with us. It never leaves. And sometimes it feels like we're a long way away from being well. But it's much closer than you think. In fact, it's no distance at all. Now, I don't know if you're concerned about your mental health or maybe someone you know, but this stuff actually affects all of us, whether you realize it or not. And I do know that there are hundreds of thousands of people across the world whose experience of life is being destroyed by thoughts. This magical, temporary gift of life that we're given, there's a bunch of people having not a great time. So I'm going to take a risk with you. Here's the risk. I've never told anyone about this stuff. Not in this way. Not my family, my closest friends. And I have to tell you, I'm scared. And that's why I need your help. Nobody leave. I remember the day that I convinced myself I had PTSD. In fact, I told a psychologist once, I said, I think I've got PTSD. He said, well, where do you keep it? I think it's here. I don't want to keep it there. And one of London's busiest streets, the Euston Road. I'm walking down Euston Road. It was during the day. And I wasn't a crier. I am now. I think it's an age thing. I'm soppy now. Most films get me. But I'm walking down Euston Road, and there's cars and motorbikes and angry cyclists, and red buses thundering past my face. And I am in floods of tears. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. This is about 8-9 years ago. And I had no idea why. You ever get that when you're thinking, I'm feeling sad, but I don't know why? And not only that, I couldn't get control of my thoughts either. So I asked myself the question, why am I feeling like this? And my brain started to think up stories, because there must be an explanation. I can't see it yet. But if I ask myself the question, why, then I will get to the answer. Big mistake. But nobody tells us how the mind works, do they? No one told me. Did they tell you how it actually works? So I've got these thoughts buzzing around my head. And look, I spent 10 years as a police officer and working in law enforcement. I've got a long list of stories that might fit the bill. Which trauma must this be? And, you ask anyone that works in the emergency services, when you think of the violence, the fear, the horror that they have to face on a daily basis, there's a bunch of stuff that we can choose if we want to feel bad about ourselves, right? And I had something at the top of my list. And at the top of my list, I was the first on the scene of a murder that became an international manhunt. Front page news. They made a film about it. And I was stood next to the children of the victim at the very moment that I discovered their mum. Harrowing. So it must be that. That must be the reason, right? So I've got these bees, this bunch of bees. I think they call it a swarm. Buzzing around in my head, and now they've got a name. My second big mistake. Actually, let's talk about bees for a moment. I want to talk about bees. When a bee stings, it's a defense mechanism. And it releases a pheromone that smells of danger. And that smell of danger attracts other bees. Here's the thing. When one bee stings, all the rest join in. Just like thoughts. So what I wanted to do is share with you some of the impact of a whole bunch of years of living with a head full of bees. I wanted to share with you some statistics by numbers. This is the number of careers that I destroyed during the period of 20 years. This is the number of trips to a hospital, 6 trips to hospital, 2 of them in an ambulance. What's coming next? Oh yeah. Marriages ended. 1. Excess weight in kilos, 19, give or take. I did have fish and chips yesterday. The number of fad diets attempted, 4. The number of health conditions created by fad diets, 2. This sounds like the sports results on a Saturday, doesn't it? Inanimate objects destroyed in rage, 5, including the wing of a BMW. I'm calm now. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. This is an interesting one. Annual expenditure on alcohol estimated. You add that up over 20 years. It's much lower now, I should point out. The number of attempts at being a teetotal, 4, including one 18-month stint. I'm quite proud of that one. This is the number of suicidal thought episodes. Now, I'm a little vague on the exact number. I decided that sitting at home thinking about all of the times when I had suicidal thought episodes probably wasn't going to be a helpful use of my time. You understand, right? A little more recently, number of narcotic experiments. Again, I'm a little hazy on that number. I think it's 4. But no one's having these conversations. The conversations is we must talk about mental health. That's what the conversation is. But I want to go next layer down. These are the conversations I want to have. What's the actual impact? Because it changes the narrative. Super interesting. What about the global impact? You know the global impact of mental health? They reckon over 10% of the world's population are struggling with one or more mental health conditions. That's, getting on for some 800 million people. And by the way, that statistic is pre-pandemic. So Wembley Stadium, capacity 90,000. That's like having Wembley Stadium, 8,000 Wembley Stadiums next to each other, filled with people, and there still wouldn't be enough room to let all of those folk that are struggling in. Isn't that extraordinary? And it doesn't stop there. What about the hidden impact of this stuff? 1.5 billion tobacco users in the world. Now, that doesn't strike me as a smoking problem. That strikes me as a thinking problem. We had a thought which then led to this. 275 million drug users every year. 1 billion people living with obesity. That doesn't strike me as an eating problem. That's a thinking problem. That's some of the hidden impact of this stuff. So, what I discovered was, when I was walking along Euston Road, my head full of bees, I thought that experience was because something that had happened in my life outside of me. That was the reason why I was feeling like I was feeling. But what I caught a glimpse of is, hey, hang on a minute. My experience in every single second is only coming from one place. And that's my thought in that moment. Because that event happened a long time ago. So I must have been thinking about something that made me sad in that moment. And it's kind of obvious, but I suddenly saw that at a deeper level, and it changed everything. I'll give you an example. You're all having a different experience right now, right? And I can tell by the looks of some of your faces, some of you are thinking, wow, this is actually really interesting. Some of you are thinking, like, when does this guy finish? Can we get is it break time yet? But I'm still saying the same words. We're all hearing the same things, but we're all processing it differently. So we're having 100 different experiences of the same thing in the room. So our feeling, our experience can only come from one place. And here's the thing. There are no exceptions. Not even traffic wardens. I used to think that traffic wardens ruined my day. It turns out that it was the way I was thinking about the traffic wardens that ruined the day. It wasn't. The traffic wardens are fine. They're nice people. Some of you are frowning at me. I started to see something that was true. Who I really was. And I wasn't the thoughts that I was cooking up. I'm part of this magical thing that we're all part of, this miracle called life. That's who I really am. Not all this thinking. So back to the bees for a second. Now, when you go to a beehive, they've all got different jobs. There are some that do the cleaning. There are some that fly off to the flowers. Some bees are sentry bees in charge of protecting the hive. And then when you walk up to the beehive, there's like a low hum happening in the hive until you lift off the lid, because the bees are in the dark. They're doing their busyness in the dark, just like our thoughts. But take the lid off the hive, and the hum of the bees changes in volume and frequency. It goes from a kind of a C sharp, to a much higher, louder, urgent. Like in bee language, they're saying, what the hell's going on? Because there's a temperature change. There's a disturbance. We've let in the light. And then it struck me. How can you expect a thinkaholic to have calmer thoughts if you shine a torch on them? And that's why it didn't work for me. It's like giving an alcoholic whiskey to help their alcoholism. You wouldn't fix my obesity by giving me cake and burgers every day. I'm not going to get any slimmer. So how do you help a thinkaholic? Well, it's the opposite. I don't want more things to think about. I want less things. And when I started thinking about less things and I got calmer, that's when everything changed. I was hoping to feel calm in this moment, but at the moment it's not happening for me. I don't know about you. Because this isn't something that I can explain intellectually. It's a feeling. It's a spiritual thing. It's a moment of those moments. in between the thoughts, before the thoughts. In those moments, you catch a glimpse of something. You suddenly see the truth of who you are. Now look, if you'd said to me 2 years ago that in 2 years' time, Simon, you're going to be standing on a stage talking about God, I'd be calling you your therapist, not mine. Whether you call it God or the universe or the essence of life or whatever it is, it's those moments of quiet and calm have led me to realize that some kind of spiritual practice, whatever it is for you, quietens the noise so much. And the more of those moments of calm that I have, the more everything just feels so different. And I've seen things about myself that are different. So here's the thing. In a beehive, right? You know how many bees? 60,000 bees in a busy hive in the summer at their peak. 60,000, if not more. Guess how many thoughts we have every single day? 60,000. Isn't that a thing? 60,000. According to Dr. Luskin from Stanford University, his research suggested that out of those 60,000 thoughts, 90% of them are repetitive. No wonder I was in a monumental pickle. I'm thinking the same things over and over again. Now, imagine you've got a tractor, right? We're in Northampton. Yeah, everyone's got a tractor. We all drive tractors here. You get in a tractor in a muddy field, and then you drive across the field. And then you turn around. That's one thought. Two. If you did that 60,000 times, can you imagine how deep the trench is going to be a day? No wonder we can't see our way out. No wonder we feel stuck. No wonder we feel like we can't be seen. So here's the thing that I would like you to do. I want you to be calm. Remember to breathe. Like I forgot when I was walking down Euston Road. Breathe deeply. It's the one thing that brings us back to this moment. You can't breathe tomorrow at 11 o'clock or yesterday at 10 p.m. We can only breathe right now. Breathe deeply, be calm. Let the bees do what bees do. Let them make their honey. It tastes sweet. Thank you very much.